Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at another video. This is going to be the rule changes coming up in the AFL here in 2021. This is going to be a video by Footy A to Z, and I love their videos. They do awesome work on their videos, so I will link their channel in the description. Go check it out. Go watch some of their content and give them a subscribe. I highly suggest it. But I'm super excited for the AFL season to start. We've already put out a few videos, and I can't wait it's only a few more weeks away, so I need to kind of catch up on what some of the rule changes are going to be. So let's get the ears on and let's get right into this video. All right, let's break down the 2021 AFL rule changes.
Once the Premiership Cup has been presented and the juggernaut that is the AFL trade period slams to a halt, discussions around rule changes becomes the next item on the football media agenda. As reported by The Age, market research suggests that fans want to see the game opened up and scoring opportunities increased. At the same time, however, the strong message from supporters has been, stop changing the rules.
Sure.
Faced with this seemingly unresolvable paradox, the AFL have surprised many this off-season by introducing 3 new rules for the 2021 season.
All right, so we got 3 rules.
Kick-ins and interchange caps have already been discussed at length and build on other recently introduced changes. Eyebrows were raised though at the new man on the mark rule, which arrived with very little public discussion, but does have the potential to be the most impactful of all these changes.
All right, man on the mark. Let's figure this out.
So why does the AFL expect these rules to create a more open game? And just how successful can we expect them to be in altering the current state of play?
Let's find out.
Player interchanges. The interchange cap controls how many player rotations a team can make on and off the bench every game. In 2021, this will decrease from 90 to 75, equating to an average of 3.75 less rotations per quarter. The 75 divided amongst the quarters comes out to just over 18 rotations.
Quick question. How often do the teams get close to reaching their maximum number of rotations in a game? Is this decrease really going to affect the game that much? Again, this is I'm pretty new to all this, so I'm genuinely asking these questions. Let me know in the comments below. But I don't know, do teams kind of push that boundary typically for reaching the maximum amount of rotations? And if not, I'm wondering if this is just kind of superficial in a way, but maybe it's not. Who knows?
Meaning you could bring every single player off the field at some stage. Football operations boss Steve Hocking has asserted these changes are an attempt to open up congestion around the ground. This is supposed to be achieved by increasing fatigue. Of course, less rotations means less opportunity for any one player to rest off the field, and the theory is that tiring out players will lead to a decrease in pressure intensity.
Sure.
Poor execution of pressure upon the ball carrier and difficulty in continuously shifting defensive zones around the ground, the AFL hopes, will lead to an increase in scoring. There are a lot of high-pressure game styles which have kicked in. The pressure factors have increased, and have been on the increase for 5 years now. So our belief is we need to put a little bit of fatigue back into the system, Hocking stated.
So it would seem that, given the way they're describing it, it would seem that, they do get over 75 rotations a game normally, and that's why bringing it down to 75 is going to maybe implement some more fatigue into the game. We'll see.
Another factor that should assist in creating fatigue is the return to longer quarters.
Okay.
It's still open for debate as to what length quarters the AFL will decide on, although they have admitted it won't be 16 minutes. And the general sentiment shared by fans and broadcasters is a return to 20.
Yeah, go back to what it used to be, right?
This cut is the latest in a string of changes the AFL has made in recent years. And since rotations were first capped in 2014, stats show the game has failed to open up. While it can be difficult to analyse the impact of rotations in isolation, scoring continues to decline, and the contested possession rate, an indicator of congested play, has remained stable. The AFL, however, continues to persevere with the strategy, and it appears that if the subtraction of 15 doesn't have a large enough impact, they'll keep slashing the rotations until the desired result is achieved.
I wonder, I guess, can't they just look at how many teams or how many rotations on average each team makes in a given game and try to approach that number or cut below it a little bit? I think that would ultimately hit the goal exactly on like the nail on the head for what they're trying to do. But it seems like they don't want to overcommit to that and obviously make too big of a change, because that could really negatively impact if you go too far. So I think maybe they're just doing it little bits and pieces at a time to see when it starts to impact it.
Player on the mark.
Yeah, what's this
The
about?
most surprising rule was to restrict the movement of the player on the mark to 1 meter on either side. The hope is that this will make it easier for teams to kick into the corridor. We think that will open up the game. It will open up the 45-degree angle pass option, which is the best real estate, Hakeem explained. To illustrate the impact of this 45-degree kick, consider an out of bounds on the full free kick taken on the wing. The mark in this instance is the point on the boundary line the ball crossed, but you'll never see an AFL player standing there. Instead, the player on the mark moves inboard, aiming to block off dangerous space in the corridor and force a kick down the line. The AFL hopes that by effectively trapping a player in a wider position, it will be easier for teams to move the ball inboard from wide areas and attack in a more dangerous manner.
That is interesting.
As soon as a kick comes in, a wider range of attacking options become possible, such as a switch to the fat side, or further short 45-degree passes that work the ball forward. Another significant aspect of this rule change is the fact the mark cannot be substituted. Previously, it was not uncommon to see a player such as a half forward come from behind the play and mend the mark, releasing a defender or midfielder to push back into defence and clog up space. It's also possible that from time to time we'll see ruckmen and key defenders trapped on the mark, meaning they are unable to push back and intercept the ball, giving the attacking team a brief advantage. The new rule means that if teams can identify when a deep player is caught on the mark and move the ball quickly, they'll be presented with opportunities to catch out defences that are undermanned or out of position.
So this seems like a pretty big change. I wonder how the players are going to react to it. You know what I mean? I wonder, as far as like in game, like getting used to this. I wonder if there's going to be penalties or mishaps, because it seems like a bit of a change if you have to stay, if you can't substitute the defender, I guess, on the mark. And then I think it is pretty interesting, kind of locking the defender in that 1 meter range of where the mark was taken. So definitely is going to open up offenses for sure. And I wonder how that's going to impact game strategy and gameplay overall.
While in theory there is scope for this to open up the game, it could inadvertently lead to more congestion during slow periods of play. When a forward comes to stand the mark, they're likely to stay high once the ball is kicked, and remain an option for a rebound if the ball turns over. But if a defender is trapped on the mark, it's possible we'll see teams instructing forwards to cover them in defence. Once the ball is kicked, it's likely the defender will roll back into their position, and if the forward becomes involved in the play, they will stay around the ball, both increasing congestion and limiting the options for a fast counter-attack. It could also mean a slight advantage to players kicking for goal. For example, Mason Cox will almost always come down to man the mark for a long-range shot, but he won't be able to replace a player in this situation.
Oh boy, big
So
Coxie.
the back pocket starts manning the mark, and has to stay there.
Oh boy.
The change also presents a challenge for the umpires. If we don't see the play-on rules strictly enforced, this rule could mean a disastrous amount of 50-metre penalties awarded.
That's what I was
The player on
thinking.
the mark will naturally roll inboard with the ball carrier. Having the success of this rule then placed largely on their enforcement perhaps places unreasonable pressure on the umpires, and much like the protected area rule, this one feels like it may need to be adapted over time, depending on how it's enforced.
Yeah, definitely.
The mark pushed back for kick-ins. In 2021, the man on the mark at kick-ins will be brought back to stand 15 metres from the goal square, an increase on the shift to 10 metres introduced in 2019. The idea is to help teams clear their defensive 50, but it's unclear whether this clears congestion or just shifts it to another part of the ground. In fact, the changes to kick-ins brought in for the 2019 season decreased the chance of the old 7-point play, and hence had a negative impact on scoring. Per the AFL record in 2018, the team defending a kick-in was twice as likely to score from a turnover than the team kicking out was to go score at the other end in that chain of play.
Yeah, I mean, so you're basically just having to push the defender farther back from the kick in like that. So it's, I mean, obviously the farther back you go, the more space theoretically is going to open up. because it's an oval, right? So it gets a little wider as you get farther back. But yeah, I don't know if this is going to increase scoring necessarily. It just kind of seems to it makes it just kind of takes away pressure in the defensive zone for whoever is on defense, which doesn't add pressure if you're on offense, which would add to scoring. So interesting.
Or in other words, without a stoppage. After the rule changes in 2019, teams who intercepted an opposition kick-in chain scored 22% of the time, down from 26% in 2018. However, there was no corresponding increase in scores from kick-ins. The new rules made it easier for teams to clear their backline, but not necessarily easier to score goals, as zones simply dropped deeper to compensate for longer kick-ins. An extra 5 metres given to the man on the mark is unlikely to alter this trend, so at the end of the day, the success of this rule will likely rest on what criteria you choose to judge it by. If your objective is to purely increase scoring, further decline in repeat scores means the rule will likely fail. If the aim is to help teams clear defence and shift the contest to the middle of the ground, then the rule will likely build on the successes the previous changes introduced in this area. This change could also be seen as a discouragement to methodically kicking out of defence. The AFL are essentially saying, here's lots of open space, run into it and kick the ball long. Whereas a chip to space in the pocket will likely not do much to shift deep-sitting zones.
Yeah.
While these 3 rules can be thought of as more tweaks than out-and-out changes, the AFL is also set to trial a more extreme zone-style adjustment in the new East Coast second-tier competition. These trials will be watched with great interest, and if we don't see an increase in AFL scoring this year, more radical change could be just around the corner.
Interesting. All right, awesome video as always. Love Footy A to Z, so go again, check out their channel, give them a sub. But I do find this interesting, and I was just kind of thinking this as I was watching the video, but it seems like the AFL changes their rules a lot, or they make, compared to a lot of American sports, and I could be wrong, but it just seems like they make big changes. Like, we do make changes in our sports too, but they're more or less for like safety reasons, because that's always kind of the big concern is safety, so they're always changing it for safety. But we don't usually see, you never see a first down in American football go from 10 to 15 yards or you know, things like that. Like, it just kind of seems interesting how the AFL really is pretty liberal with how they want to change things and how open they are to changing things. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I just find it interesting and a little bit different, because those seem to be pretty big changes and a lot for, you know, maybe the refs to handle and even some of the players, like and all the extra space. And I get what they're trying to do, and it'll be interesting to see if it works. So I'm super excited for the AFL season to start. It's coming up. I got it on my calendar. I'm going to try and do a live stream for the opening game, but it's gonna be good stuff. And if you haven't seen the sign yet, let me know down below what the best AFL stadium is in your opinion. I'm sure I'm going to open up a can of worms with that one. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, the subscribe button, and that bell notification. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Peace, love. We'll see you later. Bye. Go and check those out. But this is going to be a video. Oh, Jesus Christ. Fucking A-cat. You seriously just gonna come jump on me in the middle of recording? Oh my goodness gracious. Hello and welcome back